Howdy, I'm Shelby Williams with Plano City Council, and I am also Collin County Republican Party Chair. For tonight's recap, we delved into a few of the bond items, specifically Parks and Rec. So in the preliminary open meeting, we had a brief overview of the Parks and Rec bond items. So there's a proposed, little recap, there is a proposed $707 million worth of bond referendums that has to go through council and then be put on the ballot during next year's election. We're on a 4-year bond cycle, which means every mayoral election. So a lot of items jockeying for position in next year's bond referendum. The Parks and Recreation bond referendum, there's a proposed $51.59 million worth of Parks and Rec items there. So it's important to note that these are currently going through a bond referendum review committee, a bond referendum citizens advisory committee, the BRCAC, as I like to call it. That's going to float recommendations to council for consideration. Council is going to consider those and make our vote in early February, I think the timeline is. And then whatever council passes will go on the ballot for the May election next year, the local elections, for you, the citizens, the voters, to approve or not approve, as the case may be. So the $51.59 million proposed for the bonds is broken into $10 million for Hall Park. This is going to be the park that's planned at the corner of Alma and Park, fittingly enough. 50-acre park. That would entail $1 million a year operations and maintenance expense. So once that park is built, it doesn't exist today, once it's built and it's operational, it's anticipated that it would cost $1 million a year in operations and maintenance expenses. Then there's $20 million in land acquisition. Now, $15 million of this is for land at Levon Farms in East Plano in the Envision Oak Point area. That would entail, actually for all land acquisition, there's an estimated $450,000 operation and maintenance expense. Now there's an additional $5 million proposed for a potential future site of a senior center in West Plano. The Sam Johnson Recreation Center is currently in East Plano, east-ish. It's technically just west of 75, which may not be considered East Plano, but it's east enough. And there's a potential in the Parks Master Plan, there's a potential senior center going on the west side of Plano as well. So this $5 million proposed bond item would be for setting aside the money to purchase the land to build a facility if the land became available. So there's a lot of ifs. And we discussed that at the council meeting tonight. If we're to pass the bond measure just on the chance that the right land would come available, then that's what it would be for. It was also discussed, why don't we look at revitalizing something that is aging, run down, needs to get a facelift. And so that's a distinct possibility as well. But again, these are all just proposed items that haven't even made it through the BRCAC, let alone council, let alone the voters. Then there's the community park renovation of Shell Park, $11,595,000. It's a very specific amount, as Dr. Smith, our Parks Director, noted. So that would be for the complete renovation of Shell Park. And then there's a proposed $5 million for park improvements and $5 million for a recreational trail. So the discussion then went to, and this was even longer if you can believe it, the discussion of political signs at polling locations. So we had visuals, we had props brought in, we had slides about political signs at polling locations, as you all just saw, because we had an election. And where, I'm very proud to say, if you haven't heard it, Collin County had the highest voter turnout out of the 10 largest counties in the state. Thank you, Collin County. So a lot of discussion around political signs, and we devolved into a discussion about how many inches of a political sign could be visible from the ground level up. But we finally settled on 42 inches, which is, of course, the answer to life, the universe, and everything. If you know, you know. So we settled on signs being able to be 42 inches from the ground. So if you want two signs stacked on top of one another, or one just behind the other but raised higher, as long as they are not higher than 42 inches. If you want a bunch of short 6-inch high signs all stacked on top of one another, as long as they don't exceed 42 inches in height, you're in the clear. We also had some discussion about particular setbacks. We have the general 8-foot setback rule at polling locations, but in some places this actually causes a visibility problem depending on the ingress and egress of the area, other factors. So then we moved on to our regular meeting, and we had a proclamation recognizing the Salvation Army Red Kettle and Angel Tree drives. So the Red Kettle campaign, as you're familiar, I'm sure everybody is, where they ring the bell for the Salvation Army and collect donations at Red Kettles in countless locations across the country. And I am very proud that to have begun the tradition of Plano City Council taking turns ringing the bell for the Salvation Army in early December. So we'll be doing that very soon. We're organizing that as we speak. This will be our 5th year running, I believe. And that is a tradition which I hope persists on council long after I've rolled off, because of course we have term limits in Plano. So I won't be around forever. People also die. So that's going to happen to me one day, and I still won't be around forever, whether on council or not. Then we had a broader overview, but very brief overview of the entire bond referendum, $707 million. As you can anticipate, about half, actually more than half of that is for proposed road repair. I know road closures and road repair are your favorite thing. Mine too. Really have a soft spot in my heart for lane closures and road repair. But hey, we need it. We are trying to make it as little disruptive as possible. Is that a phrase? We are trying to create as little disruption as possible. How's that? And then we had a zoning item for Plano ISD as the applicant to rezone about 20 acres for. This is at the corner of Park and Alma, actually catty corner, or actually just to the south of the Hall Park that we discussed a minute ago. But this is at the south side, southwest corner of Park and Alma, right next to Academy High School. And this is to rezone the area and remove an awkward split zoning to enable the building, the construction of a career and technical education center. Now, for a variety of reasons, it would be helpful to have it located here, but it did not escape many people that the Plano ISD just closed and divested 4 schools. So why it didn't repurpose one of those for the Career and Technical Education Center is a valid question, which we did not get answered. But we removed the split zoning and it passed. Finally, there was a request for a SUP, that's a specific use permit, for a massage school. And there were the property owners in the surrounding area cited a number of concerns about foot traffic in the area. It's a very quiet office park. They were requesting the SUP for a trade school, specifically for teaching massage therapy. And there were those foot traffic and traffic concerns amongst the area neighbors. And there was likewise concerns about an additional massage therapy license in the same center. So ultimately that was denied. So I am Shelby Williams. That is your Plano City Council recap. Thank you for tuning in, and God bless.